What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL Top 10. This time after week number 15 of the 2019 NFL season, going into week 16 of the 2019 NFL season. We only have 2 weeks left to determine who will make the playoffs and what the seedings and matchups will be in the NFL 2020 playoffs. I'm excited. I hope you are excited as well. It's a great time for the channel. It's a great time for football. And I hope it's also a great time for you. In this video, I will unveil my top 10 teams from number 10 to number 1, ranking the top 10 biggest contenders for the Super Bowl. And it's not quite the way I feel about them going into the playoffs and how I feel like they could do in the playoffs. It's more so how they're performing at this moment in time. That's the difference between ranking contenders and ranking power rankings. Power rankings are about the here and now, while contender lists and playoff lists are about the projection of what could happen. So in this video, top 10 teams right now going into week 16. Before I dive into those top 10 teams, make sure that you do Gronk spike the like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL top 10s just like this. Also, comment below your opinion. What do you think of my top 10? Do you like my top 10? Do you dislike my top 10? Am I missing a team from my top 10? Let me know your order in the comment section below. At number 10 for week number 15, I have the team that has the inside track in the AFC South. That is the Houston Texans. The Texans are a football team that, again, every time I pick against them, they prove me wrong. Every time I pick them to win, they disappoint me. I just can't get traction on what the Houston Texans are as a football team. And I think I've finally decided that I know what they are. They're inconsistent. That's what they are. They're inconsistent. That's why they're here at number 10. Now, I do think that they are the best team in the AFC South, but I don't know if it's because they have the better roster than the Titans. I just think it's the difference between Deshaun Watson and all the other quarterbacks in the AFC South. Deshaun Watson is a true MVP caliber type quarterback. He's one of the 5 best QBs in the league today, in my opinion. Ryan Tannehill, playing fantastic. He's been hot, but Deshaun Watson was really the difference in that game. And we see when they have Will Fuller, it's a true difference for their offense. If you didn't see it in the New England game, I hope you saw it versus the Titans, because one week they lose to the Broncos, and the next week they get Will Fuller and they explode again on offense when they need to. You know, it wasn't like 30 points or anything like that, but enough big plays down the field. Carlos Hyde had it going on the ground. Their defense is what really has impressed me, because I think Romeo Crennel deserves a lot of credit, the defensive coordinator of the Texans, for what he's been able to do with the skill around him in terms of the defensive talent on this team. They trade Jadeveon Clowney. They basically don't have J.J. Watt for the whole season. He's been out on IR for a good portion of this run. And still, without an elite pass rusher, Whitney Mercilus is pretty good, but not quite the level of those two guys, has been able to, I would say for the most part, do a good job. And every single time they play a team where it might be difficult to win that game, he comes up with a couple of wrinkles per game, and you're like, wow, that's impressive. You know, some of the things he's able to do up front versus the run or versus the pass, certain matchups, taking away certain players. And I just think Romeo Crennel has gone way under the radar for one of the assistants that I think is doing a really, really good job with the limited talent and the limited personnel on the defensive side of the ball for the Texans. There are some good players there, don't get me wrong, but nothing special. It's definitely not one of the best defensive rosters in the league. So I do want to give a shout out to the guy that's been doing it for a long time, and that is Romeo Crennel. At number 9, I have the Green Bay Packers. The Packers, this might shock some people at number 9. That might be a little low for some people. But to me, the Green Bay Packers continue to prove me right in terms of I just don't think they are a true contender in the NFC. I think they are good. I think they are solid. I don't see it in terms of them being a contender. Aaron Rodgers is very good, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers is in his prime anymore. I think you have seen a little bit of a dip. Despite the new offense, despite the effectiveness of the run game, despite having Devontae Adams and a combination with him and Aaron Jones, two really talented players around him, Aaron Rodgers has not been in the MVP caliber conversation this year. And I'm not trying to rag on Aaron Rodgers. I'm just saying I don't think he's really like 2014 or 2011 or 2016 Aaron Rodgers. I think maybe those injuries have caught up to him. I don't think he's quite that player in terms of the physical capability that he used to have, which was off the charts. Still very good. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if he's the best or the second best quarterback in football anymore. I think he's still top 5-ish, but I don't know if he's clearly like elite enough to carry a team. And that does worry me a little bit because their defense is still not very good. They were outgained again in a game that they won. And it's kind of been a common theme that the Packers are very good in the first quarter, but then they tail off in the second, third, fourth quarter. Teams are able to come back against them. Maybe they do build that lead in the first quarter and they're able to hold on to it for the rest of the game, but they don't seem like they're a team that can adjust. And part of that's on LaFleur, and part of that's on the staff in general, just to be able to adjust better when teams are throwing different things at them over the course of a game. Does concern me going into the playoffs versus some of the better coaches in the league, like a Kyle Shanahan, or like a Pete Carroll, or one of these coaches, or Sean Payton, a coach that really has experience in playoff football, that's good at making adjustments mid-game. That does concern me because the Packers are not the most talented team in the NFC, and they could definitely use the edge schematically. Now, they'll continue to confuse and to be able to manipulate teams early in a game because Matt LaFleur is very good at really starting a game off with some of the game script and type of really game-specific type of things that they do to throw off a defense specifically more than anything. Sometimes, they have some things on defense to an opposing offense that is different, but most of the time it's their offense that jumps out to a hot start and allows them to win the game. But I just am concerned that they're not able to do that for a full 60 minutes. And in the playoffs, you're going to need that full 60 minutes. So the Packers, I think they are good. I think they are solid, but they still remain to be seen that I do not think they are great, even though they are at the point right now where they have a bye. But I don't think they're going to stay that way. We'll have to see. Packers at number 9. At number 8, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are slightly ahead of the Packers with their big victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. They went to Pittsburgh, a hostile environment. They beat a very, very good defense with a good coach, Mike Tomlin. The Bills, they this week have probably the biggest challenge of their season, playing the Patriots in New England in what should be an AFC East slugfest. I like the Bills a lot. I mean, I said it in the offseason. I've continued to say it all season long. They are a team that continues to be slept on. I've said that Sean McDermott deserves the Coach of the Year award. I really like Josh Allen. Their defense is spectacular. To me, it's the second or third best defense in football right now, and it stifles opponents. And the way that Sean McDermott coaches them up, and then you look at that secondary, which is dynamic, which maybe doesn't get enough recognition because they're in the same division as New England is. I just feel like Buffalo is a team that can give anybody an issue. They're going to be in every game because their defense is that good. And Josh Allen is really a special athlete, and he is capable of making a few plays a game that can put the Bills over the top. I'm still concerned about their offensive line. I'm still concerned about the lack of playmakers offensively and Josh Allen's immaturity, but their defense is so good that they can be and win possibly every game. But I do not see them as a true Super Bowl contender. Maybe they can upset one, maybe two teams in the playoffs, but I don't see them reaching the Super Bowl this season. Maybe next season, maybe the year after that, not this season. Minnesota is at number 7. The Minnesota Vikings are a team that, unlike Buffalo, I think once you get to the Minnesota, Seattle, New England range, these are the teams that I feel like, okay, yeah, I could see them going to the Super Bowl. I think the Minnesota Vikings are a very, very talented roster with pretty good coaching overall, and they are pretty simple in what they do, but because of the talent level, they get away with it. But they also need to execute at a high level. And I do feel like they've been fairly consistent all season long. It hasn't been a disappointment in any of their losses. They haven't really been blown out in any game this year. And I feel like in the playoffs, if they have the offense rolling along with Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, and Kirk Cousins is making the plays, I do think Minnesota can challenge anyone because with those playmakers, it's going to be difficult to defend. Their defense is not too shabby itself. It's not what it was a couple years ago, but it's still pretty decent. They took the football away from the Chargers, and if they can continue to do that and be opportunistic and get the ball back for their offense, they do have a chance in this loaded NFC. At number 6, I have the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, I was kind of disappointed because I didn't watch their game live versus the Carolina Panthers, but I did watch it on basically the rerun. I went back to watch it, let's say, and I was a little disappointed in what I saw. So Seattle, they're not going to have Josh Gordon anymore. I hope Josh Gordon finds a way to just in his personal life, get back to a state where he can be sober and he can be happy at the same time. And it's sad, but no more Josh Gordon for Seattle. Hollister has been utilized a lot as a weapon. Look out for him to take up some of his targets and catches. They also have Malik Turner and Jerron Brown as guys that can fill in that role. I'm not too worried about them losing Josh Gordon. I don't think they needed him. I don't really think that he was a big loss or a big addition to this team. Now, things that I like about Seattle. I have my notes right here. They can run on basically everybody in the NFL, and that's a good thing, especially when it comes playoff time, and if they're going to have to go on the road. Currently, they're the first seed. They may fall to a wild card team depending on what happens next week, specifically in Week 17. I don't think they can overlook the Cardinals this week because they don't blow anyone out, and this week they were blowing out Carolina. They let them back in the game. There was still 3 minutes left and only a touchdown up in that game versus Carolina, so those points did matter at the end of the day. I do believe they can't overlook the Cardinals because of how good Kyler Murray has been at certain times this year, and that might be a challenging game. But I will say, again, they can run versus basically everybody, so that's going to help them. Russell Wilson is special. He'll make some special plays. Tyler Lockett seems to be like he's on the mend. Defensively, I'm very concerned. If their pass rush isn't there, their secondary isn't great. They really don't play a lot of man-to-man or really can't. And that versus good quarterbacks like Rodgers or versus Breeze, guys that are experienced versus different zone coverages can eat them up. Even a Jimmy Garoppolo, I would say, in certain situations. And really, because Kyle Allen sucks so bad for Carolina, it gave them the game. So I was a little disappointed when I went back to watch with Seattle because I really expected them to blow the Panthers out of the water. But again, they're just a team that's relentless. They're well coached. They have a fighting spirit unlike any other team. So that is great. But I just want to see how they do in the playoffs. It's really one of those teams that you don't know how good they are until they play a team that is at their level. And so far this season, in the regular season, they've lost a couple of those games versus Baltimore and New Orleans, and they've won a game versus Minnesota and San Francisco. So it's been fairly even in that regard. We'll have to see come playoff time. At number 5, I have the New England Patriots. The Patriots had a big win this week versus Cincinnati. First half was pretty even overall in terms of the score. And the Patriots defense just said, we're winning this game. Stephon Gilmore took it over and basically single-handedly won the game with a pick six, another interception. J.C. Jackson had 2 of his own. The Patriots secondary, if you didn't know, is the best in football, and it continues to prove that. And I really feel like, there were some positive things about the Patriots offense in that game. Not all of it was bad in terms of the passing game was pretty bad. But overall, you look at N'Keal Harry's involvement in the game. I think you can take that as a positive, especially going in the future. Even if it's not for just this season, but seeing his skills on display, seeing that he has the talent, it's there. And he made a big touchdown catch. He had a few pretty nice plays. He was getting end arounds, carries on the ground game as well. He's just an athlete that I think this offense needs. Edelman is truly banged up, which is a concern, and he may be sat one of these next 2 weeks, I would definitely assume. But I hope he's healthy. If they get a bye, that might be huge for his health. Looking at Sony Michel, and the running game in itself was probably the best it's been in a long time for New England, so that's nice to see, and maybe they can carry that forward into the last 2 weeks and into the playoffs as their offensive line is now fully healthy again, and Sony Michel looked better in that game because of it. And defensively, I mean, they're continuing to dominate. I don't think you can really say anything more about them. It's just they're going to have to continue to dominate. If they want to win the Super Bowl and get where they want to go, they need to continue to turn the football over, and they need to continue to play amazing special teams, which I will say, Justin Bethel, that addition to this special teams, a former multiple-time Pro Bowler of the Ravens, them letting him go to New England was a very interesting move. I don't know what happened there, but him and Slater have been a force on special teams, and I wouldn't be shocked if this special teams dominates the postseason for some reason or other. It's such a good unit that I think is one of the better units in the entire NFL that nobody talks about because it's special teams, but it's really, really, really good. It's actually scary how good they are because they have 2 players that could be on the all-decade team as gunners. At number 4, I have the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers dip a little bit from my number 2 slot to my number 4 slot. The 49ers lost a concerning game versus Atlanta. Reason why it's concerning is because of the time that it comes. Not necessarily their record or the loss itself or the team they lost against, really. I just think it's the time it comes because it allows an open door for Seattle and for New Orleans to get these buys and for them to sink to a wild card, which will make it a lot more difficult in the playoffs. But I did say this is a trap game for San Francisco. They're an injured, riddled team. And hopefully San Francisco can get a little bit healthier going into the playoffs. And that's why I believe this bye week is so important for them to have a true chance at the Super Bowl. Because if they're going in hobbled to the playoffs, we've seen even better teams lose the first game in the playoffs, or more anticipated teams or bigger favorites to go to the Super Bowl lose. So that's the only thing I really have to say. It was concerning what happened in that game from a schematical standpoint, but they had the game at 19-10. They should have won that game. They didn't. They collapsed. They'll learn from it going forward, and that might even be a good thing. Who knows? I'm not really counting this as a huge loss for San Francisco. At number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs, they continue to prove me right in terms of a team that I think can win the Super Bowl this year. Their defense continues to play very, very well. They're taking the football away. Their secondary is playing spectacular. Even versus a Drew Lock in a snow game, I thought it was a really well-played game. And again, Pat Mahomes, he shows, and that offense is weatherproof. It's so dynamic, it's so fast, it's such a big game-breaking offense, and Pat Mahomes can throw the ball through snow, through rain. That's what's going to make them dangerous in the postseason. I think they're a team that's being a little bit slept on as a potential contender in the AFC and to go to the Super Bowl because their defense is better this year. Their offense isn't quite as good as it was last year, but the potential is still there to be amazing. So I like the Chiefs a lot at number 3. At number 2, I have the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, I like, but again, I think they played some of their best football over the past 2 weeks, even though they lost one of the games to San Francisco. I really like what I've seen from the offense, and they haven't really played, I guess they played San Fran, but I did feel like they matched up pretty well with San Francisco's defense. I think Drew Brees is doing a good job of getting the ball out quickly. They're executing a lot of their short passing game, a lot of their screens, stuff that they do very well. Michael Thomas continues to be uncoverable out there, and Jared Cook is getting really involved in this offense, which is awesome. And Drew Brees, congratulations on the record. Again, I've said it on Twitter. People think I'm a Drew Brees hater or whatever. It is what it is. It's still an awesome record. Nonetheless, he's a great player. He's a great guy. He deserves the record. It's a record, to me, this is how I feel about it. It's a record of sustained success, of longevity. To me, it's not necessarily a record of greatness. Even if Tom Brady were to break it on Saturday, I'm not going to change my tune. It's a record of longevity. We don't call Emmitt Smith, the best ever because he has the most rushing yards. It's a great record to have on your resume, don't get me wrong, but it's something where I don't feel like it fully encaptures the greatness of a player just because they have the most of something, not necessarily meaning they're the best at something. But Drew Brees is incredible. He's played in the perfect situation for him. He's been such a great guy for New Orleans, and he's been such a key member of that entire community. So it's awesome to see him, and then it's awesome to see just the motion he puts to the team, seeing him get those records, which truly do seem to mean a lot to him, so that's good. And I do think the Saints have the chance to go to the Super Bowl this year. I like overall their offense with their playmakers. I still question whether they can push the ball down the field and have big plays versus certain defenses. But, their defense is good in its own right. And I do like the addition of Janoris Jenkins. I think that's a sneaky under-the-radar addition to add some depth to the back end. But the Saints, they're my second best team right now and the best team in the NFC at the moment. At number 1, I have Baltimore. Baltimore again went out there and they dominated the New York Jets. Not much to be said here. They dominated a team they should dominate. But again, Lamar Jackson is a human joystick. He's surpassed Michael Vick, another record. Congratulations. Lamar Jackson's the MVP. And at this point, they had 12 Pro Bowlers. That's insane. So, yeah, they're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. Most likely. I mean, it's like 95% at this point. They have to win this week or win next week, and they're the number 1 seed. I think they will get it done. I think they'll be heading into playoffs with a lot of momentum, and they're a team that's going to be very difficult to handle, specifically at home with what they can do in the run game, what they have in the secondary. I don't think they're unbeatable, but I do think they are the favorite to win the Super Bowl. All right, guys, that is my top 10 teams of Week 15 going into Week 16. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, Gronk spike the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you soon. Peace out.